How's it going, everybody? I've had a lot of people asking me about Verrit, right? Verrit.com for a little while. And this is a media company designed for Hillary Clinton voters. Their tagline is, "For the 65.8 million." And a few days ago, we saw Hillary Clinton actually endorse the platform. So first, let's explain exactly what Verrit is. Verrit is a media site aiming at Hillary Clinton supporters, like I just said, that produces little cards with quotes, stats, like not necessarily sound bites, but factoids maybe. And the idea is you can share these. They have a verification number. You can take that verification number, go to the site, punch it in, and it will return that card. So you know that it's been verified, it's a real thing. Now, according to Verrit, their goal is to collect and contextualize noteworthy facts, stats, and quotes for politically engaged citizens. Each Verrit is a verified item of information marked with a 7-digit identification code. To authenticate a Verrit, enter the code in the search bar and match it to our database. So obviously, with the idea of authentication, fake news is a factor in why they're putting this together. And Peter Dow, who is the founder of this platform, said that he wants to create somewhere that will reflect the worldview of those who supported Clinton, and to create an online hub for Clinton backers so that they can find easy-to-share facts, stats, and other information you can take out to social media when you're having debates on key issues people are discussing. And so that sounds pretty cool. Actually, I checked out Verrit and I'm looking at these cards. I actually really like it. This idea that there could be a soundbite, a factoid, I should say is a better word for it, that you can share on social media, people can see that graphic. When you click it, it gives you a bunch of sources. That's a pretty good idea. And I think with fake news, being as pervasive as it is, this might be an interesting methodology or technology to help solve that problem. Unfortunately, Peter Dow was an advisor to the 2008 Hillary Clinton campaign, but that doesn't really matter as much because we know he's in alignment with Clinton and is not creating a platform that's going to combat fake news and actually help people win arguments. He's creating an echo chamber, literally wants to create something that will reflect the worldview of Clinton backers. So this is going to present a few problems. One, although the information might be sourced, selective sourcing can lead you to a narrative that isn't necessarily correct. I made a video a long time ago, and this is something I love talking about. Maybe you've heard of the dihydrogen monoxide hoax. Basically what you do is you tell someone how dangerous the chemical dihydrogen monoxide is. You can explain that it eats through metal, that it's found in cancer, and it sounds scary. But the reality is it's a fancy way of saying water. The point is, even if you have correctly sourced little tidbits here and there, the sourcing can still be selective. And if we know that the founder is biased, we know the platform's been endorsed by Hillary Clinton, and they've even called out the far left and the far right, we know their position, and that means take it for what it is, right? Take these posts with a grain of salt because it's going to present information that just reinforces your worldview, which it's not very healthy. So I decided to dig deeper and see if this platform was, although left-leaning, maybe they're going to do a good job. And scrolling through the site, I came across a post that said that since 9/11, majority of the terror attacks have been carried out by right-wing extremists, and that Islamic terror was only a small amount. Well, I know this is not true, and so I clicked this to look at their sources to figure out what they were talking about. Sure enough, and very obviously, they're referring to the United States. So yes, majority of terror attacks in the United States were taken out by people that you could say align with what are considered to be right-wing ideologies. And I understand the whole debate of left versus right is very, very confusing, and people have different understandings of what left and right really means, but you get the idea. Now, I saw this post, and I said, that's not true. And the reason it's important to call this out is that part of the debate over terrorism is not whether or not the United States has homegrown terror, but whether or not the United States will import terror. So I decided to comment. And the point I brought up was that this is not correct unless you add "in the US" to that card. Okay, so you can see the card, it doesn't mention in the United States, and right off the bat, I think that's dangerous. If the idea is to arm Clinton supporters with facts that can help them win arguments or debates and provide sources, well, this quote is technically incorrect. And so although I understand it's very pedantic, I said, add "in the US" because we need to be specific here so that the argument can't be refuted on technicalities. What do you think the response was from a site like Verrit? Do you think they said, hey, you're right, that's a good point. We should put "in the US" in there so that it can't be, refuted on technicalities? No, they deleted the comment. Yeah, they deleted it. which was surprising to me because I thought I was being rather reasonable. I was like, hey, this is cool. Maybe you should do this, make this one minor change. And no, they just removed it. Everybody seems to know this, right? This is common sense, in my opinion, that majority of terror attacks around the world are carried out by Islamic extremists, and most of it is in the Middle East. So when you want to win an argument with someone about, say, the Muslim ban or migration, you can't just say that since 9/11, most terror in the US was carried by right-wingers, because it doesn't get to the core of the argument that's being made. If we want to argue effectively and combat fake news, we need to better understand one another and where they're coming from, which is why I thought it was reasonable for Verrit to include this small little tidbit here in the US. Now, I'll admit, the title on Verrit does say in the US, but the card itself doesn't. And the card is the important part, because that's the verified, graphic that's going to be shared on social media, and it's going to put a lot of people in a position where, they're going to be wrong, technically. It's just going to make the debates and the arguments worse. Upon seeing this reaction, upon seeing my comment removed, it is now my opinion that the goal of Verrit isn't to do what they claim they're doing, but just to reinforce the worldviews of those who already believe these positions. I mean, Hillary Clinton, she endorses it. She says it's for the 65.8 million. Keep in mind, not everybody who voted for Hillary Clinton likes her, right? Some people just voted for her because they didn't want Trump to win. But I digress. The platform's clearly biased, and we can understand that. Now, aside from what the site does, and again, let me reiterate, I do like it. I think it's a really great idea. I wish it wasn't partisan. Perhaps there's a platform we can make that wasn't partisan, that was just like this. That would be really cool. In fact, if we had something like Verrit that was user-edited, maybe that would be the right way to do something like WikiTribune, which is supposed to be this crowdsourced / editorial platform for news. That could be a really cool thing. But outside of all that, there's another kind of, I don't think ironic is the right word, but Hillary Clinton, the DNC, there's some hacking involved, right? Emails got leaked, things like that. It's a big controversy, I'm sure everybody knows about. Well, Hillary Clinton endorsed Verrit, and not too long after, Verrit was hit by a denial of service attack. Okay, so a lot of people like to say DDoS, that means distributed denial of service, and that's where a bunch of computers target one computer and try and overload it, essentially, so that it can't do anything. This is a simple way to put it. But this could just be a one-on-one attack. We don't know for sure, but what we do know is that the site went down and wasn't working. And Peter Dow said that they were hit by a sophisticated cyber attack. Well, no, DDoS attacks or DOS attacks are pretty much like the easiest attack to carry out. So much so that some people around the world argue that it's not even an attack. It's more like a digital sit-in. It's a protest. It just really depends on the severity or the intent. So in this instance, they were not prepared for this kind of attack, which, again, it's kind of a funny coincidence, Hillary Clinton endorsing this after being, the DNC being hit by cyber attacks, and then sure enough, another Clinton-aligned, platform is unprepared and doesn't have the cybersecurity that they need to function. So since then, they did set up Cloudflare protection. But I gotta say, any partisan political website that's planning on launching, especially if they're gonna get the endorsement of Hillary Clinton, if they're not taking cybersecurity seriously, that is not a good site to be involved. I mean, I wouldn't sign up for that. I wouldn't put my information in that site. It's gonna get hacked. Listen, if you make a site and you aren't prepared for a distributed denial of service attack, that's like kindergarten stuff. Little kids, 14-year-olds, click one button to make these attacks happen. And you didn't even prepare for that? It makes me wonder what else you didn't prepare for. Maybe something legitimately sophisticated, not grade school DOS attacks. But there have been a lot of interesting media criticisms. It seems like most of the reviews recognize that this platform is not going to provide people with a true understanding. Right? Although it's been said, there's no outright fabrications. There's other ways to make fake news, and fake news is a really interesting term. It's kind of a catch-all for a lot of different ideas. For one, hyper-partisan content. This website is absolutely hyper-partisan. It seeks to serve a specific group of voters and political ideology, which means you're not going to hear the other side and better understand what the argument actually is. But aside from that, even if they're not pushing outright fabrications, their goal isn't to enlighten people or to better the argument or better the space or even bring people together. Their goal is to push a narrative. And honestly, Peter Dow has basically said that. So it's kind of disappointing because Verrit's it's a cool idea. And maybe there's a way to implement something like this that's got community editing, editorial oversight, but is nonpartisan, because that would be really, really cool. That might actually be a real solution to fighting fake news. So let me know what you think. Comment below. Let me know how you feel about Verrit. Go check it out. It's verrit.com. It's interesting. You know, it is what it is. If you like the video, click the like button. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Timcast. If you want to support the work that I do, make sure you go to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like or give nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every single day at 4 p.m. Stay tuned, periodic live streams, and right now, the next trip that I'm looking at is Hurricane Irma. So this has been upgraded to a Category 5. It could be really serious, so we'll keep everybody in our thoughts and hope that this thing curves out over the Atlantic and does not make landfall. But in the event that it does, or if the prediction models show a direct hit somewhere, I'm going to do my best to get down there and cover the story and be safe, right? I don't want to do anything reckless that's going to negatively impact any first response or anyone else. So we'll see what happens. But I've got some professional crisis and disaster reporters going down who are advising me. So stay tuned and we'll see what happens. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.